the thing is, I think I was on such a high anyway, and so was Catherine, about George, that really we were happy to show him off to whoever wanted to see him. As any new parent knows, you're only too happy to show off your new child and, you know, proclaim that he's the best looking or the best everything.
A sudden announcement from Buckingham Palace has shaken the nation, bringing unexpected attention to Prince Louis and Prince George.
Prince Louis is clearly a delightful character. He's full of energy, he's full of beams. He clearly finds these photo opportunities very exciting.
After weeks of quiet concern surrounding the royal household, officials have confirmed a development that has left many struggling to understand what it means for the young brothers.
The solutions are out there. There is real solutions to these problems.
This update isn't routine or minor. It marks a serious turning point in their lives. So what exactly pushed the palace to speak out so urgently? A palace statement, like no other. The words from Buckingham Palace lit up screens across the nation, each syllable carrying a weight rarely seen in royal statements. It wasn't about protocol, engagements, or ceremonial appearances. It was about Prince George and Prince Louis, the young princes whose laughter once brought warmth to millions. Now, the palace acknowledged something deeply personal, quietly serious, and heartbreakingly real. Even the senior staff were caught off guard. There were no whispers, no preliminary alerts. The official statement landed suddenly. The family appreciates the public's kindness as they navigate a private matter concerning Prince George and Prince Louis. For seasoned royal correspondents, the tone was startling. It conveyed emotion, gravity, and care in a way Buckingham rarely permits. The choice of words hinted at challenges far beyond ordinary childhood struggles, leaving the public to wonder what had prompted such an unusually candid note. Speculation spread almost instantly. Some insiders suggested the turbulence of the past year, the king's health concerns, Princess Catherine's long recovery, and the relentless glare of the media had created pressures quietly felt by even the youngest members of the royal family. Teachers at Lambrook received discreet calls. Upcoming family appearances were delayed, and staff moved with a new caution, aware that the smallest misstep could draw unwanted attention. The announcement revealed the monarchy's rare willingness to acknowledge vulnerability, humanizing a family often seen only through pomp and ceremony. Yet, it also highlighted the care with which royal decisions are made behind the scenes. The palace's statement, carefully worded, was both protective and measured, signaling that this was a matter of privacy, not scandal. Observers noted the contrast with the royal public image. Prince William, increasingly steady and commanding in his role as heir, appeared unshaken, reinforcing the monarchy's focus on continuity and calm authority. Meanwhile, whispers suggested Prince Harry's recent travels and movements had drawn renewed attention, though no official connection was confirmed. The palace remained silent on specifics, letting the statement's gravity speak for itself. Across Britain, households paused to absorb the news. Phones lit up with messages of concern, televisions hummed with coverage, and social media buzzed with speculation. For a moment, the nation glimpsed a royal family as any other, facing private trials in the midst of public life. Prince George and Prince Louis, normally symbols of innocence and joy, had become a quiet reminder. Even within the gilded walls of Buckingham Palace, life can be fragile, and every heartbeat matters. In acknowledging this, the monarchy balanced duty with humanity, sending a message both subtle and profound. The palace had reminded the world that, beyond titles, crowns, and ceremonies, the family remains a family, and even princes are vulnerable. But even as the palace emphasized family over titles, a single question lingered. What was Prince William's next move in the unusually still courtyard of Kensington Palace? The moment. The palace fell silent. When Prince William stepped before the cameras, his voice was steady, but the world could feel the weight pressing behind it. Every word seemed to carry the full burden of the crown, the family and the nation watching from every corner of the globe. "My father's condition is stable," he said softly, "but his illness is incurable. We are cherishing the time we have together. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. It wasn't just the confirmation of a rumor. It was the acknowledgement of a truth too painful to disguise. Outside Buckingham Palace, grief and disbelief mingled in the air. Thousands gathered, standing shoulder to shoulder in the chill of a gray afternoon, clutching flowers, candles, and phones that streamed the moment again and again. Some prayed, quietly. Others simply stared at the palace windows, hoping for movement, a shadow, anything. Reporters lined the mall like sentinels, cameras fixed on the balcony that had seen so many royal waves, now drawn behind velvet curtains. Across oceans, headlines erupted. News anchors' tones shifted from speculation to sorrow. The words incurable and cherishing echoed across time zones, two words that reshaped how the world saw their monarch. For months, there had been whispers. King Charles, diagnosed with cancer in early 2024, had continued to fulfill his duties, attending meetings, greeting ambassadors, and maintaining the public calm that defined his reign. But those close enough to witness him privately saw the difference: the slower movements, the longer pauses, the fatigue that no public smile could conceal. It wasn't the first time the king had faced pain with such quiet dignity. In his younger years, Charles was the image of strength and determination. He rose before dawn, rode for hours through the damp Scottish air, and found peace in the simplicity of soil and saddle. His devotion to polo and the countryside was legendary, not for leisure, but as proof of endurance. To him, health was discipline, and resilience was duty. But time, relentless as it is, began to test that discipline. Surgeries and injuries came in waves. The knee operation in 1998, a hernia repair in 2003, the minor procedures that followed in later years. Each time, he emerged smiling, shaking hands with nurses and waving to photographers, determined to show that the body could yield without surrender. Yet those closest to him began to sense a quiet shift, a deeper reflection on fragility, on legacy, on the limits of strength itself. Now, as William faced the cameras, that legacy seemed to stand behind him, proud, weathered, unbroken. The king who had once played through pain now inspired a son who spoke through heartbreak. The monarchy had always been about endurance, about holding one's head high, no matter the storm. But this time, even endurance had a cost. And as the palace remained still under the November sky, Britain waited, suspended between gratitude and grief, wondering how much longer the silence would last. But when the silence finally breaks, will it mark the end of a reign or the beginning of a reckoning within the crown? Stay tuned. The girl who would be different. Princess Charlotte has always occupied a unique position within the royal hierarchy. Born on May 2, 2015, she is fourth in line to the throne, positioned between her elder brother Prince George and younger brother Prince Louis. But unlike George, who carries the weight of future kingship, and Louis, who enjoys the relative freedom of being a spare to the spare, Charlotte has existed in a peculiar middle ground, one that has shaped her in unexpected ways. Royal biographer Angela Levin revealed in a recent interview that Charlotte has demonstrated an independent streak from an early age. She's not like the other royal children we've seen in recent generations, Levin noted. There's a steeliness to her, a determination that reminds many palace watchers of Princess Anne in her youth. Staff members who have worked closely with the Wales children paint a picture of a little girl caught between two worlds. One longtime nanny, speaking on condition of anonymity, described Charlotte as acutely aware of the cameras, the protocols, the expectations, in a way that seemed to weigh heavily on someone so young. She would ask questions that would break your heart, the source revealed. Questions like, why can't I just be Charlotte? Or, do I have to wave at people I don't know forever? These weren't tantrums or complaints. They were genuine questions from a child trying to understand her place in a very complicated world, the breaking point. The catalyst for what insiders are calling Charlotte's goodbye appears to have been building for months, possibly years. According to sources within the palace, the young princess has become increasingly resistant to royal duties and the relentless public scrutiny that comes with her position. The situation allegedly came to a head during a private family meeting at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor last month. Palace staff reported unusual activity, extended private time with no official engagements, visits from child psychologists and family counselors, and what one source described as the most serious family discussions the Wales household has seen since the late Queen's passing. Princess Catherine was in tears for days, claimed a source close to the family. Prince William was pacing the gardens at odd hours. Something was clearly very wrong, and the children were at the center of it. What emerged from these closed-door meetings was apparently a stunning request from Princess Charlotte herself. She wanted out of royal life, or at least a dramatic reduction in her public role. For a 10-year-old to articulate such a desire, and for her parents to take it seriously enough to consider major changes, speaks to the severity of the situation. How a schoolboy's weekend changed the face of the monarchy. While the world held its breath for the grand coronation of King Charles III on May 6, 2023, tucked behind the royal fanfare was the quieter, more intimate rhythm of a 9-year-old boy's life. For Prince George, what unfolded that weekend was nothing short of extraordinary, stepping into a role that placed him front and center of a moment frozen in history. But as surreal as it all seemed, his parents knew that reality would come rushing back faster than the applause faded. Because come Monday morning, George would be back in his school uniform, walking through the gates like every other child. The playground chatter would shift from football scores to royal robes, and all eyes would likely turn to the boy who had just walked Westminster Abbey's sacred aisle behind his grandfather, the King of England. His classmates might still be buzzing about the golden carriages and televised spectacle, but for George, the lesson would be clear: life goes on, and titles don't exempt you from math class. Those closest to the Prince and Princess of Wales knew what this balance meant to them. Yes, they were proud, elated even. A spokesperson confirmed just how honored they felt about their son's inclusion in the ceremony. But this wasn't simply about pomp or prestige. It was about making sure George understood the weight of his future without being crushed by it. It's something they've thought long and hard about, the spokesperson revealed. And something they're genuinely excited for. Not just for what it represents, but for what it means to George personally. Still, they were cautious, because for all the history unfolding beneath the Gothic arches of Westminster Abbey, the Wales household has always tried to shield their children from the relentless spotlight. That weekend may have belonged to the crown, but the days that followed were theirs to protect. And so, while cameras captured George in royal robes beside the monarch, it was the quieter image. George back at his desk, pencil sharpened, backpack slung over one shoulder, that his parents valued just as deeply. But make no mistake, his presence was no accident. King Charles, in his vision for a leaner, more focused monarchy, made a deliberate decision to place his direct heirs visibly at the heart of his reign's first moments. A senior palace insider confirmed the king's intent to show Britain and the world exactly who stood in line behind him, not just symbolically, but quite literally. And there was George, walking not as a spectator, but as part of the living bridge between legacy and future. As rehearsals turned to reality, and the world watched history in real time, George wasn't just representing the next generation of royals. He was learning, in real terms, what it means to carry both heritage and expectation on his young shoulders. And what does a 9-year-old's quiet role in a centuries-old ritual say about the crown's future? Charities that help people with sight loss. When the organizers heard that Louis loved collecting conkers, they thought it would be a perfect connection. They decided to write to the Prince and Princess of Wales, inviting their young son to become an honorary patron of the championships. It was a kind and light-hearted gesture, the sort of story the public loves, one that links the fun of childhood with good causes. Many might have expected the palace to accept the invitation, especially since royal patronages are such a long-standing tradition within the family. But what happened next surprised everyone. Buckingham Palace responded with a message that was both polite and full of humor. They thanked the organizers warmly for their thoughtful offer, but explained that Prince Louis was busy concentrating on his studies. The clever wordplay made many people smile, showing a glimpse of the light-hearted side of royal life. Yet behind the joke, there was a meaningful decision. Prince William and Princess Catherine had chosen to politely decline the offer. Their reason was simple. They want their children to grow up as normally as possible. Even though Prince Louis is high in the line of succession, his parents have always made it clear that they want him, along with his brother George and sister Charlotte, to have a grounded childhood filled with school, play, and family time, rather than public duties. Prince Louis's love for conkers first came to light when the Princess of Wales mentioned it during a public visit. She said that their home, Adelaide Cottage, was often full of conkers he had collected. The conkers was hidden under pillows, in drawers, and even inside his bed. She laughed as she described how Louis used his toy trucks to carry them around, turning a simple hobby into endless fun. It was a glimpse of a little boy who, despite being royal, loves the same small joys as any other child. By the time autumn came to an end, the young prince's conker collection had nearly taken over the house. At that same time, he was preparing for his half-term break from Lambrook School, the same school attended by his siblings. There were also rumors that the Wales family might soon move to a new home, Forest Lodge, which would give the children even more space to play outdoors. The palace's response to the conker patronage offer reflected that family-focused lifestyle. For Prince William and Princess Catherine, childhood isn't something to rush through. They believe their children should have the freedom to grow, learn, and play without the heavy expectations of royal life pressing down too soon. But while the decision made sense, it also sparked a wave of reflection. Many people pointed out that Louis wouldn't have been the first young royal to be linked with a charity role. In fact, history shows that members of the royal family have often been introduced to service at a young age. Prince William and Prince Harry, for example, both learned about public duty from their parents. Princess Diana made sure her sons saw real life beyond the palace walls. She took them to hospitals, shelters, and community centers, teaching them empathy and kindness through experience rather than lectures. William often spoke later about how those visits shaped him, how watching his mother talk to people with gentleness and compassion showed him what service really means. But it did not stop with them. Their father, now King Charles III, also started young. When he was just 9, he was formally named Prince of Wales. And though it was a symbolic title, it marked the start of his long public journey. As a teenager, he began representing Queen Elizabeth II at events and developed a passion for causes like the environment and youth development. Those early lessons would later define his life's work. Other royals followed similar paths. Princess Anne, known for her strong work ethic, began taking part in official duties while still a teenager. By the time she was 20, she became president of Save the Children, and she didn't treat it as a title on paper. She threw herself into the work, visiting projects around the world. Decades later, she remains one of the most active members of the royal family. Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, had a quieter introduction to public life. While he often accompanied his parents to events when he was young, he took time to find his own direction. Later, he became involved in organizations that matched his personal interests in education and the arts. His early experiences observing royal duty helped him understand how to connect his hobbies with meaningful public work. Even going further back, royal children in earlier centuries were often given honorary titles long before they were ready for real responsibilities. In the 80s, Prince Albert Edward, later King Edward VII, received numerous honorary appointments as a boy, mostly symbolic roles meant to show royal support. Adults handled the actual work, but the titles helped reinforce the royal family's connection to society. Over time, the approach to raising royal children has changed. The focus shifted from giving them titles early to letting them learn through experience and maturity. Instead of being placed in the spotlight too soon, they are gradually introduced to what it means to serve others by watching, learning, and understanding the people behind the ceremonies. That change is clear in how Prince William and Princess Catherine are raising their 3 children. They've often said they want George, Charlotte, and Louis to understand the world before representing it. Their public appearances are carefully chosen, and each child is slowly introduced to royal duties in age-appropriate ways. Turning down the Conquer patronage might seem like a small thing, but it shows a big part of their philosophy. They want Louis to enjoy his early years, to focus on school, friends, and simple childhood moments before carrying the weight of royal expectations. It's a reminder that, even in the royal family, being a child still matters, and while the story made people smile, it also earned respect. Many saw it as a sign that the next generation of royals will grow up with a stronger sense of balance, one that makes them aware of duty, but not defined by it too early. In a family that has faced its share of pressure, this gentle approach feels refreshing. And now, as the young prince continues his journey, many are curious about what's next for him and his siblings. How are Prince William and Princess Catherine really preparing their children for future royal duties? Stay tuned, the answers may surprise you. Tears in the palace. At 76, King Charles III is said to have broken down in private, overwhelmed with tears after a deeply unsettling confrontation with 2 of the people closest to him: his son, Prince William, and his sister, Princess Anne. What shook him so deeply was not just their words, but the weight of their demand, one that could redraw the boundaries of royal life forever. Both William and Anne reportedly stood firm, presenting the king with a shocking ultimatum: to completely cut ties with Queen Camilla's family. Their request was not vague or symbolic. It was precise and absolute. They wanted Camilla's relatives excluded from every layer of royal involvement, financially, socially, and even in the background roles they had quietly begun to occupy within palace circles. What had once started as whispered tension behind gilded palace doors has now escalated into what insiders are calling nothing less than a royal reset. This phrase, simple yet dramatic, suggests that what is unfolding is far bigger than a family disagreement. It points to a potential reshaping of the monarchy itself, its traditions, its power structures, and the identity it projects to the nation and the world. For King Charles, the demand is particularly heartbreaking. Throughout his decades as heir apparent, he long struggled with the public's perception of his private life. His marriage to Diana, the painful divorce, and his enduring love for Camilla all shaped how the world saw him. After years of criticism and scandal, finally seeing Camilla crowned as queen consort beside him during his coronation was, to Charles, both a personal victory and a sign of acceptance. Yet now, the very family he relies on to secure the monarchy's future is challenging that chapter of his life in the most dramatic way. Prince William, the heir to the throne, is said to be especially resolute. To him, the monarchy must be leaner, more modern, and free of what he sees as unnecessary complications. Camilla's family, with their growing presence, reportedly represents a risk, one that could blur the lines between the crown's duties and personal indulgence. Princess Anne, known for her no-nonsense approach and unshakable loyalty to duty, has reportedly sided with William. Her alignment with him makes the demand harder for Charles to dismiss, for Anne's reputation as the most hard-working royal gives her opinions added weight. The tension has become a battle not only over family loyalty, but also over the monarchy's long-term survival. If Charles refuses, he risks alienating his son and sister, creating fractures that may weaken the institution from within. If he agrees, he risks betraying the woman who has stood beside him for decades and reshaping his legacy in a way he never intended. What happens next could alter the monarchy for generations. Is this the beginning of a bold new era, one that resets the balance of tradition and modernity, or the spark of a deeper family rift that may never truly heal? The world watches, waiting to see which path King Charles will choose. What exactly did William and Anne say? Why did it affect the king so much? How weighty were the words? Let's delve into the depth of the words that brought the king to tears. The rift within the royal walls. While the world buzzed with rumors and speculation, something far more intense was happening behind the palace walls. A silent, simmering war that no one outside could see. The air in the royal corridors was thick with tension, and at the heart of it stood Princess Anne, the king's steadfast, plain-speaking sister, and Queen Camilla, the woman determined to protect her husband and the crown's image at any cost. For weeks, Anne had watched in frustration as the palace released carefully worded statements to the press. Words like fatigue and routine adjustments floated through headlines, painting a picture of calm and control. But Anne wasn't fooled. To her, these weren't acts of caution or diplomacy. They were deliberate attempts to hide the truth. She believed the people had a right to know what was really going on. Finally, she decided she had heard enough. According to insiders, the confrontation between Anne and Camilla was anything but royal politeness. The atmosphere was, as one aide described it, glacial. Anne, never one to mince words, fixed her gaze on Camilla and said firmly, "We owe the people honesty." Her voice, though calm, carried the weight of conviction. Camilla's reply was swift and sharp. "And I owe my husband his dignity," she shot back, her tone edged with steel. The room fell silent. The line had been drawn. From that moment, whispers of division rippled through the palace halls. Staff began referring to Team Anne and Team Camilla, as if the royal household itself had split into factions. Some courtiers sided with Camilla, arguing that secrecy was necessary to preserve the monarchy's stability and shield the king from public scrutiny. Others quietly agreed with Anne, believing that honesty would ultimately protect the crown from greater scandal. Behind the polished smiles and measured statements, the tension was almost unbearable. And then came the darker truth. The king's health was deteriorating. The vague reports no longer matched the reality Anne saw. She demanded to visit her brother daily, to be by his side, but Camilla, fiercely protective and suspicious of Anne's motives, refused without the doctor's clearance. What began as disagreement turned into open hostility. Meetings that were once formal and cordial now crackled with conflict. Voices rose, sharp words flew across the room, doors slammed hard enough to echo through marble halls. The staff, who once moved with quiet precision, now walked on eggshells. It stopped feeling like a palace, one aide later confessed in a whisper. It felt like a battlefield. But even as this internal storm raged, destiny had yet another twist in store, one that would shake the monarchy to its core. Just when it seemed the conflict between Anne and Camilla could not grow deeper, a new revelation surfaced. Something no one had anticipated, something that would change not only the balance of power inside the palace, but perhaps the future of the crown itself. The outside world saw a calm facade, a palace managing its affairs. But within, loyalties were tested, alliances were broken, and the line between truth and secrecy blurred into something dangerously thin. The quiet war had only just begun. Where was Prince Harry in the picture? How did he react to his father's health? Let's dig into the details of Harry's show of concern for his father's health. Courage behind the crown. King Charles has faced one of the most challenging periods of his life over the past few years, as his health has taken a difficult turn, particularly following his cancer diagnosis. What was supposed to be a season of celebration and stability after his long-awaited coronation turned into a time of uncertainty, concern, and resilience for both the king and the royal family. Less than a year after he ascended the throne, news broke that the monarch had been diagnosed with an undisclosed form of cancer. The discovery came unexpectedly. while receiving treatment for an enlarged prostate. Occasions often also often associated with aging, doctors found signs of something more serious. The revelation came as a shock not only to the king himself, but also to a nation that had just watched him officially take on the weight of the crown after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. The diagnosis sent ripples of worry through the United Kingdom and beyond. The public, who had celebrated his coronation with grandeur, suddenly found themselves praying and hoping for his recovery. Yet, this was not just a health battle for one man. It soon became a trying time for the entire royal family. In a heartbreaking turn of events, Princess Kate Middleton was diagnosed with cancer around the same time as the king, shaking the royal family to its core. Both beloved figures withdrew from public life to focus on recovery, testing the family's strength and unity. For Prince William, balancing his royal duties while caring for his ailing father and wife became overwhelming. Describing 2024 as the hardest year of my life and a dreadful experience, he revealed a rare glimpse of vulnerability, showing that even royalty cannot escape the deep emotional toll of illness and personal struggle. Meanwhile, the king began what would become a long and ongoing course of treatment. Details of his condition were kept private, in line with royal tradition, but it was clear that his health journey was far from easy. For more than a year, King Charles has quietly endured therapy and medical supervision, with his schedule significantly reduced. Public appearances became fewer, and each re-emergence was met with warmth, applause, and deep respect from the British people, many of whom admired his courage and commitment to continue serving, even while fighting a personal battle. Despite his health challenges, the king has slowly and steadily begun to return to his public duties. His presence at official events has grown more frequent in recent months, a sign that he is regaining strength and stability. Those close to him say he remains determined, disciplined, and deeply reflective, qualities that have defined his character throughout his decades of public service. As for the Princess of Wales, she recently shared the hopeful news that she is now in remission, a message that lifted the spirits of millions who had followed her journey with empathy and admiration. Her courage has mirrored the quiet strength of her father-in-law, reminding many that even in moments of royal glamour, there are deeply human stories of pain, endurance, and hope. Together, these experiences have reminded the world that beneath the crowns, titles, and royal ceremonies lie real people, vulnerable yet resilient. King Charles's story, marked by illness and perseverance, stands as a testament to the power of determination and faith in the face of adversity. And as he continues to heal and lead, his journey serves as an inspiring reminder that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to rise above it with grace. Now that the king has fallen seriously ill, how did the members of the royal family react? Were they defensive? Did they point fingers? Let's dive into the details of the reaction from the royal family.